hier van Comic Talk NL nog steeds in Anaheim, Wondercon. Het is bijna afgelopen, maar we hebben echt zo verschrikkelijk veel content voor jullie de komende weken. Je gaat bijvoorbeeld nu kijken naar een Artist Edition panel samen met Scott Dunbier. Iedereen die mij een beetje kent weet dat ik helemaal gek van Artist Editions ben. En dit panel keek er waanzinnig tof naar uit. Ik heb hem integraal opgenomen en daar gaan jullie nu naar kijken.
This is not my sidekick, this is my wingman, Keith, who generally does these things with me. He's a good guy, he's in charge of marketing, I guess, at IDW. And he's a writer. He just has his first book out.
No, my first IDW book.
Okay, why don't you tell him about it?
I did a Godzilla comic book recently called Godzilla Rivals versus Godzilla versus Gigan, and my intent was to write the bloodiest fight of Godzilla's history. I think I executed it okay. So if you're into Godzilla, pick it up. It's pretty cool. It's fun.
It is the bloodiest. The subtitle is Godzilla Gets Hemorrhoids. Sorry. Okay, so let's make the first announcement.
Okay. Breaking news here.
We had some announcements already, but behold the future of artist editions. This is probably the most important artist edition we're ever going to do.
Ever.
Okay, sorry. You can tell I have a bad sense of humor.
It's almost April Fool's Day.
Almost April Fool's Day. Which coincidentally is my 15th anniversary at IDW.
Okay. First one.
My wife says, she writes, tell them I said hi and thank you for coming and making me feel included because I have mad FOMO. You guys know what FOMO is?
Fear of missing out?
Yes, I had no idea.
Okay. First one. Kevin Nolan.
All right.
Yeah, you can see that. Yeah.
So, in about 2.5 weeks, we're releasing Kevin Nolan's Marvel Heroes Artist Edition. The one on the left is the regular edition, and the one on the right is the signed and numbered version. Each one signed by Kevin, limited to, 125 or 150 copies. There's tons of stuff if you're a Kevin Nolan fan. This one has some really great stuff, including the 62-page Man-Thing graphic novel that he drew over the course of 35 years. Well, over the course of 2 years, and then he didn't finish the last 10 pages, and then, like 12 years ago, finished the last 12 pages. And there's a couple other complete stories. There's one that is a Hulk story that came out a few years ago that's really nice, and it's actually presented pencils, inks. So it's a 10-page story. You see 10 pages of pencils and 10 pages of inks. And there's a lot of great stuff, a lot of vintage stuff. Mike Mignola wrote an effusive introduction, and it's cool. And we'll show some pages now.
I could just say this is particularly a favorite of mine because the comic on the left, which is Alec Flager 52, was actually one of my first comics.
Oh yeah?
So Kevin Nolan was like introduced me to comics.
So Strange Tales cover and just crazy beautiful Hulk cover from these are from the late 80s, early 90s probably. Back cover of a Wolverine book that has Wolverine eating a bird, which is kind of cool. And then on the right is a pinup that Kevin did for Marvel Fanfare in the early 80s.
So a little cheesecake for whatever your preference is, right?
Sure.
Yeah, these 2 pages.
On the left is a variant cover that Kevin did about 5 or 6 years ago. On the right is one of the pages from the Hulk story I mentioned, which is a really cool story, and lettered by Kevin. And finally, 2 pages from the 62-page Man-Thing story which is just gorgeous, crazy, beautiful work. And luckily, I knew the guy who owns the original art, who bought it from him in 1987 and finally got it about 12 years ago when he finally finished it. That's actually me.
So, the artwork that goes into this book, how much of it was from the artist you found, the artist still had it, and how much was in collector's hands?
Most of it was in collector's hands, but Kevin still had scans of some of the more recent stuff. Because about 5 years ago, I said, "God damn it, Kevin, will you start scanning your art?" And so he does.
You want to go to the next one?
Michael Golden, again, an artist like Kevin. The one on the left is the regular, the one on the right is the signed and numbered version, and that'll be coming out in July. It said July 4th. How is that possible? How can it come out on, stores aren't open on July 4th.
Just the release date of the system, I think. They still ship. If the store chooses to be closed on July 4th, then I suppose they still on the 5th.
All right, so if you can't get it on the 4th, you can complain to this guy.
Not me.
All right, and then, and this book has a lot of really great stuff. I was able to track down some beautiful work. There are actually 4 full lengths, including these 2 pieces are presented in the book because they're oversized, and so they're both presented in full lengths. Want to move ahead?
Sure.
All right, 2 pages from Avengers Annual Number 10, which is one of Golden's most renowned books. I don't remember how many pages were in the entire annual, but there's about 12 pages featured here that I was able to track down. A couple of pages from his very well-remembered Doctor Strange number 55 story with inks by Terry Austin. Not a lot of pages in the book, but I got a couple of really good ones. There are 4 complete stories, including Marvel Fanfare number 47, which is a 32-page story that Golden inked himself, and this is one of the double-page spreads in it. There were, 4 or 5 double-page spreads, and it's just stunningly beautiful stuff. Might be my favorite job by him. Either that or the G.I. Joe annual. A couple of nifty covers on the Punisher. And just some other random beautiful pieces. A Doctor Strange cover and my favorite Nomad cover by him. There are probably like 40, 45 covers in the book, 4 complete stories, 2 of the first non-stories, the Wolverine Christmas story, where there's no dialogue, and it turns out that Wolverine is fighting the entire story, and in the last page you find out it's a kid in a toy store having a battle with toys.
This is Michael Golden's Marvel Stories. Kevin Nolan's is Marvel Heroes. Is there a reason for the distinction in the titling? Or just fun tease?
Yeah, I try to mix it up a little bit. Okay, Walter Simonson's Fantastic Four. The book will have 8 complete stories. A 5-part story, issues 337 to 341. And then 352 to 354. Those stories were chosen by Walter. He keeps all of his artwork. And I went to Baltimore Comic-Con last year. Walter was a guest, and he brought all the art down, and I scanned it at the show. Because I'm an idiot. They speak for themselves. Nice double-page spread. Cover, splash page, just great stuff. Oh wait, go back to the first page, and the next one. again, signed and numbered is on the right. Another demo page spread.
The big time travel story, Fantastic Four, which Walter loves so much. Yeah.
It's a great story. Okay, and then we have John Romita's The Amazing Spider-Man Daily Strips Artist Edition. The daily strips or the newspaper strip started on January 3rd, 1977, and if you go to the next slide, these are the very first two dailies, January 3rd, January 4th. This book will only be 1977 and 1978. The entire first month of daily strips is in here. If you're a John Romita Spider-Man fan of the newspaper strip, you're going to love this book. It's going to be presented horizontally. It's going to be 19.5 inches wide and 15 inches high. Again, if you like this stuff, it's great. The Sunday strips, unfortunately, will not be in this book because, gosh, we shouldn't really say it, but there will be their own Sunday strip book coming out sometime after.
What?
Yeah, well. Okay, so we do have an announcement. That's,
Yeah,
you know.
I guess that hasn't broken into the world.
Yeah, don't tell anyone.
That's right.
All right, and now the next two, January 5th, January 6th, and then the next one is the rest of the week, 7th and 8th of January. A fun fact, I got an additional piece of art that I'll probably put in this book. If I don't, I'll put it in the Sunday book, and that is in 1972, in the New York Times of all things, which doesn't run newspaper strips, John Romita and Stan Lee did a fake Sunday page, or a Sunday page, sort of fake, of the political climate in 1972. So it has some cameos by various people like Chisholm, Nixon, and others. It's kind of cool. It's very rarely seen, but I wound up coming across the original, so I scanned it, because that's what I do. Is that okay? Oh, we're starting to do new editions of old artist editions. This year we're going to see the Frank Miller Daredevil book and the John Byrne X-Men book. The books will be, they're updated a little bit, but there's no new material in them because I don't want people to be forced to buy a book if there's like an additional 3 pages. Thank you. We also have something that's completely uninteresting to anybody but me. We only sold artist editions for a long time through Diamond Distributors. And nothing against Diamond, really, but we now sell through PRH, which is known as PRH, but it's Penguin Random House. And they do a phenomenal job of getting these books out there. So our print runs, the books are more available and our print runs are higher, which allows us to do more artist editions. So the Frank Miller book already has numbers beyond what Diamond did back when we released it the first time, like, I don't know, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. So it's a very valuable resource for us to get these books out there, and definitely makes them financially worthwhile as well as aesthetically worthwhile. Is that everything?
One more slide.
One more slide?
Yep.
Oh, and we're still doing artisan editions. If you remember the Will Eisner Spirit artist editions, we did 2 of those with a total of 34 stories. This particular book is a combination of those two. I sort of went through and picked my favorite stories. It's an artisan edition style, so it's a little bit smaller. It's 8.18 inches by 12, soft cover, and it has more than 17 stories. I want to say 24, but I might be wrong about that, because I honestly could not cull it down to only 17 from the two books, because I'm an idiot. And then to the right is the Bill Sienkiewicz Artist Edition that is produced here as an artisan edition. That book sold out very quickly, and so we decided to try it as an artisan edition just for the hell of it. But if people want to see it as an artist edition, a reprint again, let me know. I think. All right. Thank you for coming. All right. Bye. No. That's
went through a presentation, 15 minutes.
Well, if we took 45 minutes, they'd be falling asleep. I certainly would. But does anyone have any questions about artist editions, new or old? And let me just say, we do have a number of artist editions, a lot, planned for the next 5 years. We just signed a new deal with Marvel, and we might be close to signing a deal with maybe another company too, which I shouldn't talk about.
All right,
All right.
questions?
See that gentleman over there?
I've only ever seen these at Comic-Cons. Are they available in bookstores with PRH now that you switched over?
They're available. They're available at your local comic shop, but also online. So if you go to Amazon, they'll be on Amazon. If you go to, I don't know, there's a million online retailers like what's the Tales from Another Galaxy or something like
Books
that.
a Million.
Books a Million.
Barnes Noble.
And also, if you're interested in a particular artist edition, I urge you, it's great to buy them online, but I'm a firm believer in supporting comic shops. So if you go to your local comic shop and tell them which one you want, they can order it for you. It's absolutely not an issue, especially with PRH, because we overprint much greater than we used to.
Yeah, comic shops who are buying from PRH, they actually get free shipping from PRH, so it doesn't cost them anything in addition to just instantly place an order and get those books back in stock. So it's really convenient. You should be able to get it within a week or two.
I did not know that. That's great. All right. And then gentleman over there, yes.
A few years ago, you did a little bit of an experiment with those portfolios, right? Neil Adams one, etc. Are you guys going to do any more of those? Do you have any thought on that?
See, here's the problem. Because I can't do something just like easy, like a portfolio with a paper envelope, I insisted on doing these hardcover portfolios that were very expensive to do. And so we sort of priced ourselves out of the market on those particular things. And I love them, I basically saw a Milo Manara and Robert Crumb portfolio from France that were hardcover portfolios, and I said, holy crap, I gotta do these. But they're very expensive, and we charged $40 for them. Neil Adams said you should have charged $75, but the book isn't that much more really, so it's kind of tough. Did you like the portfolios?
I did, yeah. I like I think sometimes I might pull one out and just frame it and put it on the wall. Right?
Yeah. What about, actually the G.I. Joe one was a lot of fun because it was printed double-sided, one side with lettering, one side without lettering. I'm thinking about, maybe doing more portfolios with traditional, maybe not envelopes, maybe Mylar, something like that, something that's not only cheaper but easier to ship. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
So first, I picked up the McFarlane Artist Edition at Barnes & Noble because it was their 50% off day, so it was a great day to get it.
Wow, nice.
Yes. On top of that though, two questions. First, like an update on the Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein that you talked about a few years ago, and then are you looking at doing more indie kind of stuff? Like I would love to see like Madman, Mike Allred early stuff, things like that.
All right, I'll go to the second one first because I'm just going to totally ignore the first one. Sorry. The Wrightson one will happen at some point. It's completely on me. As far as more indie stuff, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I would love to do, and some things I've tried to do, some things that haven't necessarily worked out. As far as Allred stuff, I actually own remember the very first Madman series from Tundra? Remember the flip book? I own the flip book. But, you know, it's this big.
Yeah.
I used to own the first 2 issues of Madman, not from Tundra, but from, was it Dark Horse? But anyway, I sold them a long time ago. You know, I'd love to, if I could find enough stuff to do something like that, but I'd rather do complete stories, and you know, again, Mike sold all of that stuff ages ago, so it would be a little bit tough. But I'm definitely up for doing more indie stuff. Depends on your definition of indie. I have a few guys that I'm talking to that you know, something might come about. I didn't really answer that, but sorry.
No, it's fine. I got a splash of one of the, like, I think the second issue of the 3rd series where he's like flying through the air and saying invincible backwards. So
great stuff.
I love that. Yeah.
Great stuff. Yeah. Anybody else with a question? Yes. Oh, well, hello there. How are you? Stand up. Why aren't you wearing your Aurora outfit?
No, I did not contemplate this show. 2 questions. One, are any plans for another artist dinner with the purchase of a artist edition as previous years have done? And 2, is there any plans for a Darwin artist edition? I know it's closed from the Martini edition just a few years ago, but could we get a Darwin artist edition?
Please.
Pretty please.
There is a plan to do a dinner at San Diego next year, not this year, for an artist edition. And as for, I'll tell you about another project that isn't an artist edition by Darwin. Actually, should I? Maybe I should. Well, we have mostly a deal. Oh, what the hell? We are going to be doing at some point the complete Darwin Cook Spirit, not as an artist edition, but as a collection that will mirror the 2 Martini editions. It'll have a slipcase. It'll be all of Darwin's spirit work, and we're just waiting on one final thing. But the Eisner people are totally on board for it, and so is Darwin's wife. And as for doing a Darwin Cook artist edition, there are currently nothing planned officially. But you know, that might change by San Diego.
Have you guys thought, sorry, jumping in.
It's alright, you're pushing it.
Have you guys thought about asking Gabe to do an artist edition? Do you think he's ready for an artist edition with, this quality of work with?
Yeah, we've talked about it.
Or at least a portfolio. He would be fantastic.
We did a portfolio.
Another one.
Oh, pardon. Maybe. You know, I love Gabe's stuff. Gabriel Rodriguez, artist on Lock and Key. Okay. How's your grandson? Yes.
I'll ask another. Matt Wagner, maybe Mage or Grendel.
I would love to. Yeah, maybe. You know, it would depend. I've got so much stuff going on that it's kind of hard to, you do jump into something else, but I've been thinking about that recently. Yes, sir.
I'll make my annual pitch for an Archie artist edition. The good girl art is getting expensive.
We actually had planned to do one, and it was all set sometime last year, but the Archie people at the last minute literally decided they didn't want to do it. And I actually reached out to a friend of mine at Archie, not the person who pulled the plug, but I reached out to a friend of mine and just said, hey, I got all this art, I'm ready. I mean, it's literally ready to go. It's, if you see them at a show, maybe suggest that. Anyway, don't blast them though on Twitter. Anybody else with a question? How about this side of the room? We only had this side so far, except for.
What is on your own bucket list?
My own bucket list?
Yeah.
Too many things that have either not possible or I've been turned down. My dream of dreams would be to do Jack Cole, Plastic Man, but those originals are very rare. Less than 10 are known to exist. They might be out there somewhere, but I've never been able to find them. And then, I've reached out to a lot of folks that I wanted to do artist editions with, and have either heard back crickets or no's. Robert Crumb, Hergé, Atomo, somebody else too, now I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, there are plenty that I would love to do. Richard Corbin felt his work would not hold up in this format, which is just insane. But I'm still hoping someday to do a Richard Corbin book. Yes, Mary?
Have you guys ever done a Turtles artist edition? I know the artisans and other things were limited, but have you ever done a legit artist edition with Turtles? Especially now with Last Ronin.
No, we have not. Yes.
There was something, but it wasn't.
Well, that's what she brought. She brought the artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin and I are talking about something. But, nothing ready to be announced yet. This.
David Mack, something of his, Kabuki.
He doesn't keep it though, does he?
No, he sells it.
Yeah. I love what he does, but probably not on my radar, at least not now. I'd love to do a Joe Quesada with the guy's, just not only a great artist, but Jesus, he just keeps on getting better and better. Same thing with Lee Weeks. Lee Weeks just gets better and better every year. Actually, Lee Weeks, maybe that would be good. I don't think he sells his work. Anyway.
What are your thoughts on other companies releasing artist edition like books? Because it's a lot.
It's a format. My only issue is, I don't have any problem with somebody doing the format. My only issue is when they copy a little bit too closely. I remember one company did a book they released that they were doing an artist edition, and people thought it was by us because the design was so close to what we do. The designer actually called me up and he said, "Did I do this?" He was joking, but and then one company. My biggest complaint was with one company who did a really nice artist edition, beautiful art, but they literally copied the text that I use in the book to describe what an artist edition is. I mean, I didn't coin the word nuance, but I use it a lot, and if somebody else uses it, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a little bit close. So there are a couple that were a little bit annoying to me, but most of them are great. I mean, I love you know, what Bob Chapman did in graffiti. I think that Craig Russell's books are fantastic. They were very nice. You know, they actually sent me a copy of their first book because I gave them a little bit of advice on stuff. You know, again, it's a format. You know.
Did you see what the European publishers are doing?
Yes, I have.
That's-
Yeah, some really nice stuff. Absolutely. Yeah. Anybody else? No other questions? Yes, Bob.
So, and you don't have to answer this if it's too in the weeds, but I think on some of the ones, I don't know where your break-even point is, or you have to do some kind of market analysis on like, do we think, I mean, it would be great to do X artist from a long time ago, but if they don't have like what seems to be like a following where you're gonna be able to sell enough to like make a profit on it, it seems like that would be something that would factor into the decision.
I'm sorry, what was the question though?
I mean, is there a kind of a break even, like we think we need to sell 5,000 or 2,000, or is there some ballpark that you think that you need, some threshold you think you need to hit in order to realistically produce an artist edition?
I mean, we've done some artist editions that have been, you know, very low sales, and then others that have been very high sales. It, you know, it's hard to quantify. You know, I mean, some books have a lot more work in them than others. Like, you know, sometimes I need to travel and spend, you know, 3 days scanning art someplace. And, you know, the travel and the hotels and all that stuff comes into play, of course. But you know, most of the stuff I think that I pick is stuff that is viable in that way. You know, I try to be responsible. I don't, well, luckily, I mean, I think I have good taste, so it's not hard for me to envision what might be good and what might not be good. You know, I mentioned before Jack Cole. That's a book that probably would not be very profitable, but because nobody knows who Jack Cole is, you know, nowadays. And it's great that, you know, some of us do, but, you know, it's not going to set any sales records on fire. Yes?
You know, some of the early artist editions had a spot gloss on the cover. And what I'm finding is I really wanted to display the books. I don't want to store them in their boxes, right? But I can't store them upright because the weight of them can create some problems. I store them flat, right, stacked up. And what I'm finding is that over time, I pulled a bunch out when I was rearranging things. The spot gloss is starting to kind of rub off.
Really? I'm sorry.
And I'm wondering if you've given any thought to like Kickstarter or something around dust jackets for the artist editions. I know that that's a big dust jacket print, but it would be really cool to be able to have dust jackets for these books.
That's a really interesting idea. I've never thought about that. I generally don't like dust jackets only because, like many of you, I've torn so many and it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. You know, maybe we could do something where we, I don't know, do a limited number or something. Would you guys be interested in dust jackets on artist editions?
I'm thinking maybe a better, or a solution to that would be just getting like kind of, you know, acid-free kind of like construction paper, or kind of thicker kind of sheet. And if you could just put those in between them if you're gonna stack them, or even if you're gonna put them in something.
You get mine all the time.
Or just like a mylar sheet.
Bob, I'm assigning that task to you, so when we get back to me next time.
The mylar sheet kind of thing, just for the front page, would be cheaper, and it wouldn't raise your per unit printing cost up as opposed to a full dust cover. Just
I don't see it, but you know, I'm willing to, you know, look at it.
it would be easier, and it would not increase your per unit cost for printing on that. Just really bring that back and have those discussions. Just saying.
Well, disagree, would increase the burdens, but that's all right. Yes, sir.
I imagine it's been probably mentioned before, but I would love to see a Nick Cardy, particularly his backlash work in a larger format and original. And
Yeah.
Covers, many covers that were remarkable.
If we ever do wind up getting another deal with DC, I probably have 30 or 40 Nick Cardy covers. So, because I have a lot of stuff. I scan a lot of stuff, whether I can do it or not. So, but anyway, that's a good idea. I would love to see something by Nick Cardy.
Beautiful stuff in black and white.
Yeah, I mean, you know, his backlash covers, but also Superman and action covers. You know, his Aquaman covers, Teen Titans. It's great stuff. Actually, anybody here have any artist editions they would like to see? You know, this gentleman had a Nick Cardy. Anybody else? All right, we're ending the line. No. Yes.
Another, like, the Gene Colan. I mean, it's not like his Iron Man or, you know, Daredevil, you know, just anything Gene. I know we have the Dracula, but some of this superhero stuff.
I actually, you know, I'm hoping to do another Gene Colan book at some point. I have a couple of complete stories, 2 Daredevil stories. I have a ton of Captain America pages, some that are inked by Deliberate. I have a bunch of stuff. So at some point in the future, it's definitely on my radar.
The All Red Silver Surfer?
Sorry, I never saw it. Yeah, I mean, again, a great artist and a great guy. So maybe at some point. Oh, Mobius was the other one that turned me down. Yeah, so Mobius's widow had no interest at all. Hello. Yes.
It's outside the format a bit because not one artist, but if you ever do get another deal with DC, plop.
I tried years ago and they weren't interested.
Yeah, they have no interest in reprinting themselves either. They've
It's
done
crazy.
number one a couple times.
I wanted to do, I told them I wanted to do either the complete plot or the best of plot. And they just said no.
There's something in those contracts they don't want to
You know, when I used to work at DC Comics, I tried for years to get Commandy reprinted in a nice archive format, and I remember the former publisher of DC Comics at a show when I used to go to the DC panels at poor Bob Wayne. I'd say, you know, I could put up my hand when they say, "What books do you want to see?" And Bob said, "I know, Scott, you want to see a Commandy book." And the former publisher came up to me and said, "Do you really like Commandy?"
IDW released those big red Marvel books, a slipcase, Marvel Select, maybe? Do you remember those?
Yeah, those were not done by me. Those were done by Chris Ryle. When Chris left IDW, I finished the last one he was working on, which was John Byrne's Fantastic Four, but it was already done by that point. The only artist select book I did was the Stan Sakai Grass Cutter, which...
The great thing I thought about those books, they had more, the interview in the beginning.
They what?
They had a big interview in the beginning.
Right.
And that gave so much more to reading experience. Have you ever thought of expanding arts editions with something like that?
Not artist editions, but I have talked about doing other books that would include something, not really an interview, but more of an oral history. You know, kind of like if you saw the second Martini edition, it had me, Bruce Timm, and Ed Brubaker talking about Darwin Cook. You know, I would love to see, okay, this is just an example that is not a book that's in play, but, you know, if I were to do a DC book, for instance, like Justice League, I would want to do, you know, the best of that material, you know, like the top 25 issues in a book like that, and then have an oral history that would include Kevin McGuire, DeMattis, Keith Giffen, Andy Helfer, the editor. You know, that's what I would like to do. But, you know, that's just me, you know, saying what I'd like to do.
That would be really cool.
Yes.
Maybe not specific artists, but like focused on the monster magazine Marvel books from the 70s, you know, something along those lines, like you've done with EC, things like that.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, one thing that I'm considering doing is an artist edition with Marvel that'll be sort of a best of book. It isn't specific to the Marvel magazines, but you know, stories from Marvel fanfare. You know, like there's a great David Mazzucchelli Angel story that he penciled and inked. There's a fantastic Tony Salmon's Hulk story. You know, there's a lot of great stuff that's just sort of a one-off that doesn't really fit in a book. So I'm toying with the idea of doing something like that. Anybody else? Any new modern stuff that you guys would like to see?
No.
Sorry?
Alex Ross and Jim Kruger's Earth X, like those?
The problem with something like that, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, the problem with something like that is the work is already painted, so you pretty much see it as it was done already. You know, like those giant Alex Ross, Paul Dini, Justice League, and Batman, Superman. Again, those are almost like artist editions already.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So a little tough, but it's great stuff. You know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see a book on Alex Ross's pencils, because you know he does pencils on all of his stuff, and it's phenomenal, just amazing stuff.
So along that line, you know, like Tomorrow's does some of the, you know, like they did that Kirby pencil and inks thing, or I don't know, I thought they did that, or maybe you did it.
The Pencils and Inks Jack Kirby book?
Yeah.
That was me.
That was you, okay, so something like that with Alex Ross, which you would see the pencils on the one side. It doesn't have to be the full artist edition size, but you know, like that Jack Kirby book, where you see, then that's the process, where you see the pencils, and then you see the painted version, and like what he does to change that.
I think that would be great, and that would be the kind of project that somebody like Charlie Kochman at Abrams should, you know, think about doing, because he's done so much stuff with Alex. Yes.
So I was being a little facetious about the modern books, but on the modern stuff to the Alex Ross thing, the process part then becomes more interesting, right? Because you're not going to get the scans with the art editor's corrections or the whiteout or all the other things that I love to see on an artist edition. So like something like that, the Just Go book that you guys did with the paintings, where he was breaking down some of why he made this decision and whatnot, some commentary from the
With
artist.
the layouts and stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
I like that book.
That kind of stuff is really interesting for the modern. Because nobody's working traditional anymore, are they? On the modern stuff.
Oh,
Anybody
no,
do
people are.
pencils?
People draw. It's not all digital now, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Some people do. A lot of people do, but you know, Chris Somney, he still draws. You know, I mean, most people. Jeff Campbell, he still draws. J. Scott Campbell, I guess I should say.
Walking Dead? As a book, as a artist edition?
You know, Image. That, you know, I mean, Kirkman has the resources to do this on his own. You know, I think it would be a really cool book. You know, I enjoy reading the series, although I did enjoy reading the series. I don't think it's still going on, is it? But
Well, that was another book that was black and white originally, so if you kind of look at the original art, especially the inked original art on that, it's like, that's pretty much what the comic looks like. You're not going to get a whole lot of difference.
Well, actually, Image did I don't know what they called it. They did an all-out war run. We had the pencils of Adler. It looked pretty good without the ink.
I'd be curious to see artist edition
actually talking about that for a while. I'm not sure if it's gonna happen or not, but it also, not all of them exist as complete issues. So it might be difficult, but yeah, sure, that would be cool. Yes.
A modern like Brian Stelfreeze, like his Black Panther work, something like that.
Yeah, that could be cool. You know, he's definitely a very talented artist, you know. He does beautiful stuff, you know. I mean, all those guys in Gaijin, current and former, are really very talented. I mean, Adam Hughes would be a phenomenal choice. Maybe someday. Too many damn artists, too few books. Do you guys know how many artist editions I've done? Any guess?
All the ones Bob owns.
Sorry?
He said all the ones.
All the ones Bob owns.
90, like, it's close to like 75, 80, something like that.
I'm not really sure exactly. It's somewhere around 80, you know, something like that. If you include artist editions and artifact editions, which, by the way, no longer exist. Everything is now called an artist edition. But that's fine. It was a branding decision. I didn't have any problem with it. All right, how much time do we have?
4 minutes.
We have 4 minutes.
Any last takers?
I got one more for you, Scott.
Oh, two more last
Is
takers.
there gonna be a variant at San Diego this year?
Well, we have some variants that are going to be released around the time the books are out. So, like the Michael Golden book has a variant. The Kevin Nolan book, which is out in 2.5 weeks, has a variant. But there's not a specific for San Diego.
So this might be a hard sell, but Billy the Model?
By Stan G or Dan DeCarlo?
Dan.
In general, it's the longest running female-led title from Marvel. No one's ever surpassed it without renumbering.
Probably not.
Fair.
Sorry.
Does it, not much of that art exists anymore, does it?
I have no idea.
The Dan stuff.
The Millie the Model by Stan G?
No, the Dan DeCarlo book.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the Archie art exists. I actually once bought 5,000 originals from Dan. It was an 8-foot stack of art. Wow. He said to me, he said, "Hey kid, you like art, right?" I said, "Yeah, Dan, sure." It was a long time ago. I used to buy art from Dan at shows, and he said, he named the price, and he said, "Okay, but it's got to be cash, all cash." Okay, all right, Dan. So I went to his house, and a friend of mine drove me, and it took 2 trips to get all the art back to my little apartment in New York. This is like 1987, 88. And it turns out I inadvertently ripped him off, because what we did was we took one stack that was 1 foot high, and then we counted all the pages, and then we put everything in one stack, and I didn't take into account compression, so he might have lost this much of art. But anyway, but he was very happy. Anybody else? Got time for 1 or 2 more questions? Yes, sir.
How about the Crime Syndicate from DC Comics?
I don't know what that is.
It's an evil version of the Justice League from a parallel Earth.
Oh, are you talking about the Frank Whiteley stuff?
Yeah.
If we ever get a DC deal done, I wouldn't be surprised.
About the Frank Whiteley X-Men stuff.
Maybe.
In the average genre stuff like war westerns with wrestling, or John Separate, Bill Everett,
You know, that might fit better in a best of kind of book. You know, if we did a Marvel one. I actually just recently got 2 more Jack Kirby complete stories that I'm looking for a place to print them. So maybe that. And I have.
Battle?
Sorry?
For Battle?
No, Marvel, whoop, we gotta stop. So as soon as I finish this question, I have a bunch of superhero stuff that I am gonna try to fit into a book. A couple of Jack Kirby, a couple of John Buscema, a couple of other things. So, we'll see. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Really appreciate it.